to view it later. Anyway, so things are very fluid every day. And most of the time, all of the time, the only way that I would know what was happening with school was if, like you, I would get to the TV and watch the governor talk at 2 o'clock. That's how I learned we were closing for 3 weeks back in March, because I happened to get on the computer that day when he talked. That's how we get our news. So if something is going to change, if he's going to make an announcement tomorrow, I'm not going to know that until tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So I've asked everybody, staff, parents, everybody, to just be patient with us. It's very fluid. Everything that I'm telling you is what I know as of today. So we know that within the state of Ohio, Governor DeWine had instituted the levels. And we know that the levels are yellow and orange and red and purple. And we obviously know that Allen County is red, and there are 7 different indicators that determine that. What we don't know within Allen County is the cases that we have that are active right now. I think that the current cases are around 200 and some, if I read that right today. We don't know where those are. We don't know if there's concentrated areas or what parts of the county those cases are in. And with the levels and the colors, there are really no mandates other than his state ordered mandate of wearing a mask. So to be honest with you, we don't get a lot of direction on what we should be doing within the levels, except we know that as community members, we should be trying, social distancing and doing all those things. So a couple of months ago, and actually all through the majority of the summer, the county superintendents, the public school county superintendents, we all always work well together, but we worked very closely with the Allen County Health Department and Dr. Ellis, who is our infectious disease doctor, on our Allen County Schools reopening plan, which I think you all have probably seen. And everything that was put into that plan was approved by the health department and encouraged or advised to us by the health department. So we released that, and then the Lima City Schools, we sort of released our own couple of different things we were going to do differently than they were in terms of mask wearing and things like that. And so that went out. That's been out there now for probably several weeks. And so what I can tell you that as of today, August 12th will be our start date for kids. Clearly, we have the online option for parents, and parents have been really good about getting on the website, getting their kids registered, and then filling out the online application if they're opting for the online, if they're opting for online learning for their children. And we completely understand the concern that you might have with your child returning to school. If your child has a health condition or somebody in the house has a health condition, we're completely understanding of the fact that you are not comfortable having them be in school. And I want to tell you that I've gotten a lot of phone calls from people that have asked me, what am I doing with my own? I have one child. What am I doing with my own child? And he's returning to school. He's a healthy kid. We're very blessed for that. But I'm completely comfortable with sending him back to school, so he will return to the classroom. So there was a lot of anxiety with me over the summer, going back and forth about whether we should start on August 12th or should we wait and start later? What should we do? And so I've had a lot of conversations with Dr. Ellis, who again, I said is our infectious disease doctor, and he's been a really good advisor for us. And his medical opinion and his advice to us as school districts was that we need to start school as soon as possible because of the fear of late fall, early winter. And if there is another wave of the pandemic or the numbers really increase, then there's always that possibility that we're going to have to go back to remote learning, which I feel like we're prepared to do now that we've kind of stumbled our way through it back in March. We're going to be a lot better prepared for that. His feeling was we need to get kids back in school. He wrote a letter that he gave me permission to share. So I'm probably going to ask our communication coordinator to post that letter for our community to be able to read on his, it's about 4 pages long, on his position with the pandemic and his feelings about why we should try to be operating to the best that we can, following, of course, the CDC guidelines. So when your children, and if your children are returning to school, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through some topics and I'm going to hit on some things. And while I'm doing that, I'm probably going to be answering a lot of your questions. But I do want you to know that when we do get back on August the 12th, there's 3 days of that week that we're going to be in school, that there's probably not going to be a lot of learning taking place because we need to have lots of conversations with kids about everything that we have all been through in terms of the pandemic, and not just the pandemic, but everything that's happened in our country in such a short period of time. So we need to be able to digest what we've been through. We need to be able to have conversations, have our kids, an opportunity to talk and to write and to brainstorm with each other as well. So I just want you to know that that's what that may look like. We will then spend a significant amount of time talking with all of our students, including high school kids, about safety precautions. Our head nurse, Kate Mormon, is on here too, so there might be a point when I mute and ask her to come on and talk, but we're actually going to have
Hello, Jill.
We're going to have to spend a lot of time talking to kids about the importance of hand washing, the importance of social distancing, how you wear a mask, all those different kinds of things. So we need to be able to have those conversations as well. And I really wanted to make sure that I talk to you about this rumor that I keep hearing about and people are asking me about, that where parents are being asked to sign death certificates if they're sending their kids back to school. If you've heard that, that is a pure social media rumor. It's not true. There is nothing like that. I don't even know what that really means, but so there's no waiver or death certificate or anything that you're going to be asked to sign. So that's just somebody trying to spread some fear, I guess. So the first topic that I want to talk about is our facilities, because you probably wonder about what the school, what's our plan? What are we going to be doing here? We know that we have to ramp up our cleaning. Now, back in the wintertime last year, we were able to, and you've probably seen some pictures in the paper, obtain some sanitation. These, they're really cool things that they're carts and they bring them in and they spray sanitizer. So they spray sanitizer throughout offices and classrooms. They can come in and spray it on paper, the computer. It doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt anything. You don't see it. They do doorknobs, doorways, everything, playground equipment, all of that. And so we used that all last winter. And our overall flu numbers compared to the other schools in the county were really good. So I felt like that was probably a really good addition to our custodial and maintenance department, because those machines are being used on a regular basis. So we're going to amp up the usage of them. The custodians, actually, each building has a specific chart, and it'll be timed. They're going to be wiping down the high touch areas, which was always very important, but we're going to be doing that hourly, as well as spraying and sanitizing at every opportunity that we can, and much more than we even did in the past. We've already talked to our staff about the importance of cleaning desks in between classrooms if students are moving within buildings. So the teachers, there will be materials in the classroom so that the teachers have the ability to clean those desks off real quick in between student movement. That's a very important piece, that student desktop area. Now, in a lot of schools, especially elementary and middle school, the kids, you're going to find out that your kids are going to be doing a lot of moving around. The principals are really working on ways to have the teachers moving and keeping the kids staying put, so we're not exposing them to a whole lot of areas. At the high school, it's different because kids have to take different classes. So they're prepared there, though, and understand what they need to do to be able to have kids moving around. Which takes me to things like hallway traffic. So the hallways actually become like streets where, if you're on this side, you're going forward. If you're over here, you're coming this way. We'll have dividers down the high school hallways, physical dividers down the hallways. Traffic will be like when you go in the grocery store and the lanes are I always go the wrong way, but only on accident, but how the lanes are set to go in certain directions. So there's going to be a lot of that in the buildings as well. And then we're going to use, and we've never always used all of our entrances. We've always had the kids come into the main entrances of the school. We're now going to open all of the entrances and have staff members at those entrances so that we can utilize as much space as we can to cut down on congestion. And a lot of questions came up about staggering times and drop-off times and exit times. And if your child's school decides that they need to do that because of just sheer congestion, then they're going to let you know that. I've given them permission. If you need to stagger those times by 5 or 10 minutes, you can do that, but they're all figuring that out right now, and they will let you know if they do. Our playground equipment, that's been a hot topic of conversation. We clearly want our kids to be outside and at their recess on the playground. And so our spray sanitizing machines will be used between every recess group coming and going. There will be hand sanitizers on the bus, hand sanitizer containers on the bus, as well as at the entrances and exits of the school building doors, as well as in the classrooms. There'll be some freestanding ones around as well. And then a lot of you have asked me about the classroom space. We have beautiful classrooms and we have some pretty large space in our schools. And teachers by nature have a lot of stuff in their classrooms. You'll see in elementary schools, rocking chairs and reading corners and bookcases and things like that. Last spring, when we did return to the physical building in the month of May, the teachers were rotating in 1 day a week all through the month of May with the directive that that day that you're back in the building, you're to be cleaning out your room. So they are removing or have removed all of those extra nice things that they just had in there because they were fun to look at, or they were maybe storage containers. They're getting as much out as they possibly can so that we can spread those desks as far apart as we possibly can. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Thinking about classes like music, a lot of you have asked me, like, how can you sing? How can you play instruments and things like that? Well, certainly we're not going to share the instruments that we're using that have mouthpieces on them. Our music teachers at Lima Senior High School have spent the majority of the beginning of their summer doing a lot of research and looking at a lot of webinars on best safety practices for music classes. And so because of that, they have put in requests for materials that we have been able to order for them with our federal CARES Act money. So we have ordered probably about $13,000 worth of equipment, safety equipment, that will be used in all of the music rooms across the district. So whatever the high school needed for band, we made sure that we ordered for all band classes, same with choir, same with orchestra. So they'll have all of those things that they need to be able to do that safely. Restroom breaks will be spaced out by classes to allow for social distancing as much as possible. So the buildings will work on their individual schedules for how they're going to do that. And then a lot of you have asked me about lockers and locker breaks. So I really put this back to the school, like, is it feasible for you to allow your kids to use their lockers? For the middle schools, they're working that out. They'll have to have structured locker breaks, or maybe it would be every other locker to keep that space, or maybe it would be we're not going to use the lockers and they're just going to carry their backpack with them throughout the day. So it will be different, probably depending on the building and the number of kids there, but they will communicate that to you. And then if the kids are moving from room to room, we are going to be talking to them and encouraging them, obviously, to use the hand sanitizer that we have available, because we want them, and that would be part of our education in the importance of using these kinds of things. Drinking fountains weren't really something I had thought a lot about up until very recently. So what we're doing now is we're having several of our drinking fountains changed out, and they'll become water bottle filling stations. So our wonderful nurse team leader has gotten an organization to donate water bottles for our kids. So all of the kids and the staff will be encouraged to have their water bottles and then fill them at the water bottle filling station as opposed to using the drinking fountain, because we all know how kids use the drinking fountain. And in terms of visitors, as much as we love to have visitors in our buildings, we are going to say that we are not going to have visitors to our building. We're going to let the delivery people make their deliveries. The mailman's going to be able to drop the mail off. Parents are, of course, going to be permitted to come in for conferences. Anybody that does come into the building will be required to wear a mask and fill out a health check form, like you may have already been doing at your work or any place that you also might have gone. We have some, well, I'll talk about that, I guess, in a minute when I talk about social distancing. I've had a lot of questions about, of course, our buildings are air conditioned. We're very fortunate that we have air conditioning, but I've had some questions about how that works, because there was a lot of information out there early on about air conditioning circulating coronavirus. So what I want you to understand is the way that our buildings worked prior to coronavirus was when we do outside air exchanges, but we only do outside air exchanges when when a certain level is reached within the classroom. Then the outside air exchange would kick in. We've changed that so that we have a continual flow of outside air coming into all the classrooms, in and out of all the classrooms all day long. And I did check up on the filters because somebody had asked me about that, and that actually is important because the question was, do we use HEPA filters? And we do use HEPA filters. In fact, and so this is for anybody that knows all this stuff. We use what's called MERV 8 for pre-filters and MERV 11 for final filters, which means that we are able to filter particles 1 to 3 microns or greater. So if you understand that, great. If you don't worry. Our plant supervisor let me know that what we have here is just a small step down from hospital grade ventilation systems and things like that. So we feel pretty good about that. Somebody had asked me about outdoor instruction. I think a lot about phys ed and things taking place outside with phys ed. And I've encouraged that with our phys ed teachers. I've encouraged them to think about that a lot. Of course, recess, we want the kids to get outside as much as possible. My conversation with the principal today was, if you're going to have the kids in the same room all day, that's a lot. So maybe some natural breaks in there where that class can go outside and walk around the block and come back in just to get a break so that they can get a little bit of exercises. The cafeteria is a very important topic for everybody. Our kids will not be eating lunch in their classrooms, as a lot of school districts will have to do. We were given our guidelines from the health department, and we've actually ordered some new cafeteria tables to accommodate it, but we're allowed to have a certain amount of kids at a table as long as those tables are spaced out 6 feet apart. Our food will be prepackaged, but they're going to continue to get the great lunches that they have all summer long. So it will be hot food as well, but they will all be prepackaged. And the condiments and things like that, everything's prepackaged. There will be special plans in place for cleaning of the cafeteria. That will be ramped up as well. And we will also keep seating charts. So that seems a little strange. Like at high school, you sit wherever you want, you sit with your friends. But now we're going to have organized seating and seating charts. And that way we know who sat at that table. So if a contact tracing has to happen, we will know who has been there. And so I want to talk a little bit about social distancing. We have a really great maintenance department, and we actually have a guy who's a carpenter. So he has built for us, well, he's building for us, probably 600 of these portable actually they're safety glass. They're portable shields that sit on a wood base. So they're fairly large and they're fairly tall. so you can move them around. So if you were coming in and we were going to have a conference, we could sit it right in between us, so we would have that extra layer of protection. So there will be at least one in every classroom, with additional ones being stored in the building. So if a teacher says, hey, I really want these kids to do some group work together, they could check out more of those and then put that shield between those kids so they still could work together, but yet they would have that extra barrier protection. Our speech therapists work one-on-one with kids, so we would have that barrier sitting between them. And yes, packed lunches are still allowed. I actually wrote that down, and I did see that on your questions, and we are going to have packed lunches. And Beth is going to try to answer the questions too as we go along. But the safety barriers are spit guards, so they're really going to be fantastic. So they're working really hard on getting that done. All of our secretaries' desks have been done with safety glass. They're all trimmed out very nicely. It's all stuff that we're going to have permanently. And maybe when you think about it, it's kind of like, why didn't we do that before? Because we've had some really bad flu seasons and things like that. So a lot of this is just good practice that we'll probably always continue to have. And so I want to talk a little bit about masks and face coverings. And you're my first group. There's 48 of you out there now that I'm going to tell you this. So all of the staff members are required to wear a mask or a face covering unless they're in an office like this with 4 walls and the doors closed. So the majority of everybody's going to be masked or have a face covering. We have ordered these type of face shields for all of our pre-K through 4 teachers, our therapists, because we have speech therapists. And then we've also ordered enough for all of our pre-K through 4 students. And we'll talk about kids here in just a second. And we should have enough for people who cannot wear the cloth mask for medical reasons, or can't wear it for, or just aren't comfortable with the cloth one. So the face shield is really nice because it still gives you some optimal room to be able to breathe. And anybody who would have an exemption for a face shield or a mask covering would have to have something written from a doctor for that. So for the students, I know that when we released our initial plan for face coverings, we had talked about our 3 through 12th grade students having them in the high traffic areas. So that's changed. And the decision was made that I'm going to ask the board to approve this face covering policy Monday night at the board meeting. And the decision that when I talked with the county superintendents, but we feel is most appropriate, is that if we are a red or purple county, or I guess the governor has ordered a state mandate on masks, that all kids in grades 3 through 12 would wear a mask to school all day, not just in the high traffic areas, but all day, for that added layer of protection. So what we are going to do is give every kid in the district 2 masks. Now the preschool through 2nd grade kids will not have to have a mask on all day. That is not recommended by health officials for those kids. But all kids are still going to get 2 masks at the beginning of the year. And if they're a bus rider, because of the close confines of being on the bus, all kids that ride the bus will have to wear a mask. And so that's why we're going to give them all. If you have them at home, you've made some, some kids like the cute ones and parents have been making them, that's fine. We're still going to give you 2. You can use them. You can use your own. And then, of course, like I told you, we would have the shields available for the little kids as well. So that's different than what we've initially said. And now that the governor had made the order anyway, I guess it was a kind of a moot point. They were going to have to do it anyway, but we really felt that, and you know what, I'm gonna mute myself just for a second, and I'm going to have Kate explain to you why we feel that it's a best practice for the kids that age to have the masks on as well as the adults. And I know sometimes it can get really political about people believing in it or not believing it, but there's no politics here. Trust me. For me, there's nothing more than what's the best thing that we can do to keep everybody here as safe as possible. So I'm going to let Kate just reflect on why the masking of the staff member and the student, why it plays a good part.
Hello, everyone. The reason that masking by both people is so important is if only one of you is masked, you are only covered at a certain percent, which is which, I don't know the exact percent off the top of my head, but you're only covered a certain percent from those germs. But if you mask and the other person masks, your percentage of transmission of germs is significantly decreased, like less than half of what it would have been if only one of you were masked. So therefore, if you both mask, and I know that's difficult, I know masking is hard, and it really takes a while to get used to, and I know our teachers will give mask breaks, which is very important for kids, but to decrease the transmission of germs, we've really got to encourage the masking by both, so that we can cut those germ transmission by a large percentage and keep everybody as healthy as we can, both the students and the staff, and then for all of their families as well.
Thank you, Kate. So that's where we're at with that. And I feel a lot better about it because I want to just do whatever I can to make sure that we're keeping everybody as safe as possible. So let's talk a little bit about COVID and so what happens if somebody's exposed? What happens if somebody is, is test positive for it? In terms of determining exposure and in terms of determining testing, those will not be decisions that we as a school district will make. If a person becomes ill and tests positive, whether it be a staff member or a student, that will be immediately reported to the health department. And the health department immediately takes action. They will come in and they will do that direct contact tracing, and they will contact the parents of the students that they feel that they need to talk to in terms of if they need to quarantine or if a test needs to be taken. They will provide the documentation then back to the school district that says that the student needs to remain out of school, or even the staff member would have to remain off work. We do not get to make those decisions, which is good because I'm not a medical person, but they will automatically intervene and they would contact you and let you know that maybe your child's been exposed, they should quarantine, or maybe they have to take a test. They will be in contact with you, and confidentiality will always be maintained. And that was a big conversation yesterday with the staff members about, you're always curious if the teacher next door doesn't show up to work, what's going on, but we are not releasing that information. It's very, very confidential. If a student comes to school and appears, and I'm not sure that I said this earlier, but our staff members will be at all of those doors, and our staff members will have no-touch thermometers with them. And I know that initially we had said we'd like the parents to take the child's temperature at home, and you certainly can do that. But we know that maybe that's not going to be the case for everybody, or they don't have the ability to have a thermometer. So we will have some no-touch thermometers as they're coming into the school. If a student appears to be ill at school, we have nurses in all of our buildings. That child's going to get to the nurse right away. They're going to be quarantined in a designated location until we're able to get a hold of a parent or a caregiver. And then that area, wherever that child was, would then be disinfected according to the protocol. So we're really going to be on the lookout for kids who appear to not be well. There's that list of symptoms that say stuffy nose or runny nose and all of those things that we're saying, if you experience these symptoms, you shouldn't come to school. But listen, you're the parent. If your child has allergies. You know if something's off with your child. And if you feel that it is, or you feel that your child is sick, then you certainly should call them into school. We're always about get to school. We want good attendance. But at this point in time, what we really want is just to keep everybody safe. So it's always best to err on the side of caution. Remember that we do have nurses in all of our schools. And we also have the Spartan Community Health Clinic at Lima Senior High that has a nurse practitioner there. And you as families with your children are always welcome to use that as well. They can do COVID testing there. So you are able to use, you can have COVID testing done. They will take insurance. So they're always happy to help us as well. And then, so I've talked a little bit about the seating charts. So that's going to be very important for contact tracing. If your kids ride the bus, they're going to have an assigned seat on the bus, and that's going to have to be their seat. And so we've been very strict with the staff about having seating charts in the event that we would need them. They're going to have to be kept up to date. Let's see what else. And we said then if the health department would make a request for our assistance in contact tracing, we're going to cooperate with them, and we're going to respect privacy and confidentiality as well. So I want to talk a little bit about the online learning, because I know a lot of you have signed up for some online learning, and I just took a look before I came on to talk to you at some parent trainings for the online video that we're going to be releasing. Because if you were like me in the spring, and some of the problem was that the kids were working in multiple platforms, which was completely confusing for us and frustrating for the children. So we've gone to one platform only, and that is Schoology. And the reason that we chose Schoology was because it can do a lot within Schoology in terms of assessments and things like that. So we're going to be releasing a parent tutorial on how to work in Schoology, how to sign up for a parent account and progress book, all those kinds of things. So you'll be able to look at that at your leisure if you need help with it. And of course, you always can call us too, and we will be happy to assist you. We are asking that if you're doing online learning, that you have that application completed by next Friday, which is August the 7th. And we are asking that our online learners come in or out of school at that at the end of that 9-week estimate. I've had people ask me if they could try it out in the building, and if they didn't like it, go to online. And it's confusing and it's disruptive when we're doing that, kids in and out. It's just better if we start in or we start out. And after that first 9 weeks, if you decide this is online learning is not for my child, you can absolutely bring them back. If they're in school and at the end of the 9 weeks, you want them to be home to do online learning, we're going to understand that too. If you have some kind of an extenuating circumstance that pops up during that 9-week period, all you have to do is call us and we will have a discussion with you about that. We always want to make sure that we're doing whatever is best for your family and for your child. If you have applied for your online learning, I can tell you right now, everybody's going to be approved. There is a question in there that asks if you have internet access. If you do not have internet access, we have, with our CARES Act money, ordered 500 hotspots that we would be able to activate and distribute if you need that. You will get a call from the school here after August the 7th. And I am asking that our teachers do need a little bit of time to prepare to do the online learning platform. So we're probably going to be looking at a lag of about 2 weeks. So be patient. Your kids will have plenty of time to get all their work done. They will not get behind. And then there's been a lot of questions about whether or not an online learner. So if I have an online learner who is a marching band kid, what happens? Well, online learners can come into school for band, orchestra, choir, for any of their music classes. And online learners can also come into school if they're career tech students, because those are hands-on labs. Those are really big spaces that kids can be spread out in. So they are able to come in for those things as well. So our teachers, we've had a lot of conversations with our teachers, and I am really allowing the teaching teams and the buildings to make a decision on how they're going to do the online learning. So for example, there may be a designated teacher at Heritage Elementary School who does all of the second grade online learning, depending on the numbers of kids that we have signed up for online learning. I know at North Middle School, they're rocking it and they already have it all figured out. They're going to have, each of their teachers will have a period each day that they will do their online class with those kids. So it may look a little bit different. When you get to high school, you have to have that teacher that's certified in biology or algebra. So that would be probably multiple teachers, but I really wanted to give the teachers a chance to just figure it out. How do they want to do it? What are they most comfortable with? And then let them kind of build that. So they'll call you, they'll share that process with you. You always can communicate with us if you're frustrated or confused at any point in time. So always make sure that you call me. I got lots and lots of calls during the closure. I could get them directed to the buildings they needed to go to. So just don't ever hesitate to ask. Let's talk a little bit about school supplies. We are going to have, well, we know, I'm sad because this is the first year we can't have our great big back to school celebration, which has grown into, almost an amazing carnival at Martin Luther King Park, but we can't do that. So we are going to do a back to school supply giveaway next Thursday, which is August the 6th, and we're going to do it at 4 o'clock, and we're going to do it at Freedom Elementary School on Calumet. If you came by during the closure and picked up a Chromebook, it's that same school, and it'll kind of be that same system. It'll be a drive-through. We will have the backpacks pre-stuffed with supplies. We'll probably tag them by the grade band so we know what to give high school kids versus elementary and middle school. And we'll try to sort those backpacks, boy, girl, that kind of thing. We are asking that your children be with you. You'll just drive up, we'll see what kids you got in the car, and we'll get you those backpacks and we'll get you on your way really quick. So we're happy that, and we're really thrilled with the community people. These are all donations. We don't spend any school money on this. This all comes from community donations. So we're really grateful that people have continued to donate for that. We're going to discourage teachers from allowing students to share supplies within the classroom. So we know that we will have some extra supplies, hopefully from the school supply giveaway. So if you don't have supplies or you didn't get supplies, let us know so we can make sure that your child has everything that they need. And we're still going to kind of stick with that same rule of thumb with books and papers that get returned to school and having them sit 72 hours before we handle them. We're not exactly sure. There's been a lot of discussion about whether or not coronavirus, how long it lives on a surface. But we just decided that to be safe, we should just continue to follow that 72-hour rule before we handle things. So if your online student is required to turn in something by paper, it will have to sit for 72 hours then before someone picks it up and handles it. And all students are going to be issued Chromebooks. You may already know that. Now, we did have 700 of them that we distributed back in the spring, and we got almost every single one of them back. I was really proud of our community. So those Chromebooks right now are going to be the ones that we reissue out for online learners. And then we have a large number of Chromebooks that will be coming into the district. Fingers crossed they get here around Labor Day, and then every child in the district will have a Chromebook. So there won't have to be any sharing of computers at home. All kids will have them. They'll have a little carrying case. They're going to be using them in school, and they're probably going to bring them home and use them there too. And then we're going to have them in the event of another closure. And in the event that we have snow days that go beyond, 5, we can do some online learning days and not be in school all summer. So we're excited about that. Somebody had asked me about, I'm going to go back a little bit to marching band. Someone had asked me how that would look for football. And if your child is in marching band and we do get to have a football season, they will perform at the home football games, but this year they will not travel to the away games. So that's kind of what we had decided about that. Another person had asked me about a hybrid model, if we had considered rotating kids in and out of school 2 days a week in, 3 days out, and half the kids in at a time. And we actually had initially prepared that plan because we thought that the governor's mandate was going to be that only 50% of the kids could be in school on any given day. So that would mean that your child may be in on Monday and Thursday and out on Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and then other kids are coming in on other days. And we worked really hard to try to figure out if we have to do that, how do we accommodate families? So all your kids are going to school on the same day, because you don't want to be running all over and trying to remember who's in school on what day. So we worked it out, and for the most part, we think we have that plan in place. But when we realized we were allowed to have the kids in the building, we decided to go that route, because I felt that for parents, it would be extremely inconvenient to have your child in and out of school on different days of the week. So we do have that hybrid plan kind of on the shelf, really as kind of a last resort. And then we talked about the entrances to the buildings. Someone had asked about staggering times and small increments, and of course we gave them permission to do that if they needed to. So I think that I have gotten to everything that I wanted to talk about. Some of you have sent questions that it looks like Beth's been working on answering. We talk about busing. Busing will be just normal. 2 kids to a seat. Of course, they're going to have their mask on. The buses, he walked us through the sanitation procedure for the buses. So they pick up a load they clean the bus, they pick up their kids, they drive them to school, they drop them off, they clean the bus again, they wipe everything down, they get the next group of kids, they drive them to school. I feel like the bus piece is in good shape, and I think we're ready to go. You should be getting your postcards in the mail soon, letting you know your bus stop and your time of pickup and your time of drop off. So I'm going to ask Kate if you have anything additional to add, and then I'm just going to open it up if you want to ask questions.
I don't have anything additional necessarily. Just to reassure everybody that we will do absolutely everything we can to keep all of our students and our staff and our families safe and as healthy as we can here at school. If there's anything at all that we could have possibly missed, by all means, my phone and Mrs. Ackerman's phone and all your administrators are always open. Again, we just really want to get our kids back to school. If it's, if that's what if that's what your choice is, but again, the online option is there, but we will do absolutely everything we can to keep our kids healthy here at school.
Okay, thanks. So I am going to unmute you all. You should all be unmuted. Unless you maybe mute yourself, possibly. Does anybody want to say anything or ask any questions? Trust me, I'm an open book. I'll tell you anything that I could possibly have the answer to. Are you raising your hand? I think you have to unmute yourself.
I have a question.
Okay.
Or when I was doing the online to get them back in school and everything, there was a strange man that was on there that I had no clue who it was that was able to pick my child up. And they said they was going to look into it, never responded back. Now, is there going to be some more security there? Because my child was in middle or elementary school.
So our school resource officers are all still going to be in the buildings and working. But if you want to call me tomorrow about that specifically, because I want to get the name of your child and stuff and follow up on that to make sure.
Yes, because I have the name of the guy, everything.
Okay. Can you call me tomorrow and we can talk?
Yes. We'll do that.
Okay. Thanks. Ms. Irma, did you have a question?
Yes. When they go back to school, do they have to wear the shield mask or they wear regular
Masks.
masks?
So if you have masks that you have at home, if you've made cloth masks or you've ordered them some special ones, they're welcome to wear what you have at home. We're still going to give them to you. Have those. Have them as extra ones. It might be a good idea to put an extra one in the backpack just in case they would happen to forget it or something. But they'll be allowed to wear a mask their own mask. We're just not going to allow masks. All those masks have holes in them, and that wouldn't be allowable. But
Okay.
any other face covering would be okay.
Okay. Another question for the online stuff. How do we get on the Google Classroom with the new classes they're gonna have? Because right now my granddaughter's old classes on computer. Where do we go to get her new classes put on?
So it's going to be Schoology this
Yeah,
time. We're going to just go solely to Schoology. So when they're ready to launch those classes, they're going to call you, and they'll talk to your daughter, and she should know how to log into Schoology. All of the kids should know, unless they're new. And they'll walk her through that and make sure that she is able to log on and get all of her courses, okay?
Okay. You got any questions?
Keisha, did you have your hand raised?
Yes, I have a question. If I choose the online option, is my child still allowed to participate in any sport and they are enrolled in magnet school? If I choose to send them to school at a later date, will they still have their spot?
Yeah, so they will keep their seat in their classroom. They'll keep that seat in their classroom, so that spot is safe for them. And they are definitely allowed to participate in sports if you're choosing for that. Yes.
Okay.
Jeff, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. Are gifted students still going to have services if they're online, if they do the online option?
Well, yes, they should, absolutely. So I need to write that down because I haven't talked yet to the gifted teacher, but we're still going to have gifted programs. So they absolutely should, but I'll make a note
Okay.
of talking to them about that. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wants to know anything or has any comments for me?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
My question is, when those kids are in the lunchroom and they take their masks off to eat, where are they going to put their masks?
So that's a good question, because that's part of that education of how, and we did this last night at home,
They come in a plastic bag.
how you take that mask off,
I got
how
one in
you
the car.
fold that mask up, and then where does that mask go in your pocket? You cannot lay that mask
Plastic
down on
bag
the
and come
table.
in.
That's all part of those educational pieces that we'll do with those kids.
How we do it with work, we put them in a brown paper bag. That's what we do.
Okay,
And then we can reuse them. Like, we're not contaminating tables.
right,
We're not contaminating other kids.
right. That's really important. That's all that educational piece. Stephanie, did you have a question?
Do they have to wear plastic gloves?
Do they what?
Question.
No, they do not have to
Do
wear.
they have to wear plastic gloves?
Oh, no.
All right. Thank you.
My question was about the live portion of online schooling. Is there a attendance requirement for that, or is it going to be more like the spring?
So they're going to be required to be online every day completing the work. So it isn't necessarily going to be that they're on there at 8 o'clock to watch this lesson. But however, there might be some teachers that say, there might be some teachers that say, you know, we're going to do a Zoom and we're doing it on here so I can do this lesson. So we were a lot more lax in the springtime. I mean, kids were getting up at noon. Teachers were telling me they were on at night teaching. It's got to be a little bit more of an expectation that, hey, you're out of bed, get busy with your schoolwork, but we'll still be flexible enough that if they need help they're going to get that help. But there could be time. My discussion with teachers is they're teaching, they're videotaping, they're posting that in the Schoology folder. The kid goes in, they watch the lesson, they do the work. But there just could be times when that teacher wants to see that kid one-on-one and teach that lesson. So that expectation would be there. And I would strongly encourage you as parents, if you're doing online, to set a schedule. So what I did at home was I said, you are up and on that computer at 9 o'clock. You do this subject, you get a break here, this subject, you can eat lunch here, finish up here. That's how we did it. And it wasn't perfect by any means. He's not an online learner, but it was good to have a schedule.
Okay, and I understand. My only concern was that our internet connection out here is not always reliable, and especially right around, I think it's about 11 o'clock when the West Coast gets online is when we had a lot of trouble. And so just if I varied that, I just want to make sure that the kids weren't penalized for having a little bit different schedule.
Sure. And, you know, when you have little issues like that, just let the school know. They're going to be very accommodating. I mean, that's been a big discussion. We want to make this as easy for you guys as we possibly can. So don't hesitate to call if you have issues. Okay? Anybody else?
Yeah, I got a quick question about scheduling. I asked a question in the comments, and it really wasn't answered. Got a preschooler and a second grader. Last year they went at different times. They had to be dropped off at different times, picked up at different times. Is that still the case this year? That was really an inconvenience last year.
So I think that I was neglectful in talking about preschool, and I actually have had a lot of questions about preschool. So there are new state mandates around preschool, which are limiting the number of kids that we have in a classroom. So more than likely, all of our preschool kids will be on a half-day schedule, which I know is probably going to be extremely inconvenient for you. But we're going to have a certain number of kids, and I had that letter here somewhere. We're only allowed to have no more than 10 people in each half-day preschool session. And so we have a teacher, and then we have to have a parapro, of course. So we're going to be really limited on the number of kids we can have. So the preschool director just gave me this letter this afternoon that she's going to be sending to you guys, because I know a lot of you, I think I've sensed a little bit of frustration with knowing what we're doing. But that's going to have to do it until they change that or it's better. And but it's going to be half day. So I apologize, because I know that's not going to be very convenient.
Well, what about the times that they're dropping off and picking up? They're different than the other. See, my concern is when do you drop them off and pick them up? Because last year it was different. You got dropped the preschooler different than you dropped off your, kid that might have been in first or second grade, and then they had different pickup times.
So if they're in the morning session, the drop-off time is going to be the same time when you're dropping off your second grader or third grader. Those morning times are fully aligned. The afternoon times, the pickup is going to be the same time as the dismissal. You would bring them at they're 12:30 or 12:45, depending on the school. But you're going to pick them up at the end of the day for that school. You're not going to have to make, you can take them both at the same time. If you're in the afternoon, you'll pick them both up.
All right, that sounds great. That's a lot better than was last year.
Okay, good. Okay, I see two hands up. Dustin, did you have a hand? Did you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Will the kindergartners be sent home with Chromebooks, and how would they get their school supplies sent to them to the schools?
You mean for online learning?
For home, regular schools, do they get Chromebooks or computers at home when they don't have it?
They are going to have Chromebooks too. We know that little kids can run technology, so there will be Chromebooks for kindergarten kids. Yes.
Okay, and how would I send the school supplies when the book bag is too heavy for the carry?
So you would just have them bring that with them the first day of school.
Even on a bus transport?
Sure.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Keisha, did you have another question? I don't know where she went. I see another hand up, sir. Or I'm not sure. I don't see a name. Did you have a question? Ma'am?
Are you talking
Hi,
to me? Oh, no. I don't have a video.
So the online students, that's a great question somebody just asked about picking up lunches. So we're going to have that all worked out. So if your child is home online, we will have lunch distribution. And we're probably going to do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we'll let you know what buildings that'll be at. So you'll be able to come by and pick up lunch, much like you did in the spring and throughout the summer. That's a great, I should have mentioned that. I'm sorry. Sandy, did you have a question?
I did. I sent a couple questions to Beth, but I don't know if she got them in time. But one was math. Face shields, like for the little kids who, like Presley wears glasses, and so she'd probably prefer a face shield versus a face mask. I know hats aren't normally allowed, but there's a lot of face shields that are attached to hats. And I didn't know if they would be required to just wear the ones with the headbands, or how some of the face shields have like the little bucket hats. So I was just wondering if those would be allowed, or if they would only strictly have to wear the headband type.
I haven't seen the ones attached to the hats. I'd probably have to see that and take a look at it.
Well, I sent, Beth might be able to email I sent the attachment like what Elida said, because Elida's allowing them, but they have to extend below the chin, the face shield part, and not to wear a mask so that the kid will be able to be identifiable, because if you have the face shield and the face mask and a hat, they practically look like a burglar.
Okay.
But I can always talk to you tomorrow and email like some pictures of them.
Okay, that would be helpful. Okay.
And then I think my questions got answered. They'll be allowed to carry their book bags around, right?
If they're not using their locker, they're going to be allowed to carry their book bag around.
Okay. And then, so at this point, because I had another question and I won't bring it up now, but as of right now, even with us in red leaning towards purple, we are still scheduled to start school in person on the 12th, right?
Right. So the way that I feel about it right now, because we could be purple tomorrow and yellow by next Thursday. So it's difficult for me to say, if we go to purple, we're going to go online, or if we go to red, we're going to go online, because it's going to fluctuate. So honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, we're moving forward unless the governor says we cannot open school. So I feel like because he's created the levels, he needs to give us some more direction. So we'll see what he says tomorrow. I don't know if he's going to say something about schools or not. The teachers union put out a strongly worded set of recommendations to him, saying that if we were red or purple, he should be mandating schools close. Not going to do that. I feel like we need to be serving these kids, and we're going to do everything we can to keep them safe, and giving you the option to send them or not send them. And as far as I am concerned, as a superintendent, we're going to be here until he tells us that we cannot be here.
Okay, well, see, my one concern was, since we're on hours now as opposed to days, and we have a lot of extra days built in, that instead of going strictly, like if they would say, okay, you're in purple or you're in red and you have to start remotely, if we would be able to, if there's anything built into where we would be able to maybe postpone the start of the school year by a week or two without changing our calendar, because we have you know, we have the extra hours built into the schedule, you know, into the calendar. You know, the high school days, I think they have 20 some, the elementary has 40 some, you know, by hours. And I would hate to start remotely if, you know, the following week we might actually be able to go back in person.
Right. So what I said earlier was that thinking about whether or not we should delay the start of school, and it really wasn't recommended to us by Dr. Ellis. I think his feeling is when the weather gets colder and we're more informed, the numbers could become larger and then we would be in a remote setting. So I don't really see a compelling need to delay the start. I think we should get them in here while we can and keep them as much as we can. And when we have a conversation about hours versus days, we pay our teachers to teach a certain number of days in the school year. And I feel that we owe your kids as much days of education as we can possibly give them. You know, it's no secret that our grade card is this or our grade card is that. I think we are completely obligated to teach those kids as many days out of the year as we possibly can. I feel very strongly about that.
Okay, I think that's most of my questions.
All right, thank you. Dustin, did you have another question? Or Jeff?
Yeah, Jill, I had one quick question. Going back to lunches, we're gonna do the online, and one of my children has a gluten allergy. Will she still be able to get her type of lunch to meet her dietary needs?
Say yes, because we know who those kids are. They know what those dietary needs are. They would still prepare that just like they would in the regular school year. Kate, can you nod if I'm correct? Kate's saying yes, that's correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure.
Okay. Kate, what did you say?
I said I will definitely check into that, but I'm pretty sure that since we know those allergies and those restrictions, we will accommodate, but I will double check that.
Okay. And somebody posted in the chat about an online, well, they're calling it Head Start option, but we just approved an online preschool program. So we will have the ability to offer online to our preschool kids. We had to look around to find something that would be appropriate for them. Just approved that less than a month ago. So there will be an online program for preschool kids. We can take about one more question because I think we're a little bit over our time.
No, Joe, I did not have no question. I don't know why there is a hand still up.
Are you waving at me, Dustin? Is that why your hand's up?
No, I don't know why it's still up there.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry.
Okay, so let me just ask you, you can just nod your head. Has this been helpful for you? Get your questions answered?
Kind of confusing, actually. I asked a question in the group chat about preschool online, and they said it's not going to happen, and you're telling me now that there is an option for preschool online. Which is it?
So there will be an online preschool curriculum. So she didn't answer you correctly, okay? There will be an online preschool curriculum. What I also want to do is I want to give you, if you guys are able to, the preschool supervisor's name is Angela Miller. And if you want me to tell you that her number is 419-996-3427, maybe Beth can type that in the chat box there. So you can call her, but we did approve an online preschool curriculum. So if we close, the kids are going to be able to be online. It's going to be much more appropriate. Schoology will not be a good platform for a child that's in preschool. I can tell you that. So that number again is 419-996-3427. Okay?
Yes, thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome. And so maybe maybe down the road, maybe we'll do this again if you think it's been helpful. Like I said, everything's uncertain and unknown, but if we if we get into some more turbulent times. I tried to do the videos. Oh, the other thing I wanted to tell you is we're having a new system, because when we had all that happen in March, I had no way to talk to you except by Facebook, which a lot of people don't have, or text alerts, which only work about half the time. So we're launching a new system called School Messenger. And what it does is it's going to pull your phone number right off of your kid's registration. So you're robocall from me, you'll be able to get a robocall from me, you'll be able to get an email, pulls your email, to get text alerts. So it's really important that your phone numbers are correct. Have a better way to communicate. I tried to make videos, post them on social media, but again, not everybody was able to be in that loop. So you may be getting robocalls from me. I won't be trying to sell anything. Just answer it and just listen to my message. I'll try to be really quick, okay? And they will not do gym with a mask on. They will not have to wear a mask in gym class. Okay? All right, I'm signing off. Thank you. Appreciate all of you. Call me if you need anything.